Well, here we are inside the Lexus. It's quite a nice place to be with its heated leather seats and all its fancy gizmos up here. A long way from being inside a transporter. Anyway, got a couple of minor problems with it that we'll be looking at fixing over the next couple of videos. First one I wanted to point out is the unusual grumbling noise. So at the moment it's not doing it. When I first picked the car up, I actually thought it was just part of the engine noise, and then I kind of realised, well, actually it does it sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, so maybe it's something to do with the hybrid system. But actually I think I've identified it is actually the AC blower. So let's turn the AC on. I thought I should be able to. No, I can't because I haven't started the car. So to start the car, I actually need to put my foot on the brake and press the power button, and it's started. So now the air conditioning is on. The fan is not moving, so let's actually speed the fan up. And can you hear it? There's like a grumble. I think it's coming from under there. More than a grumble, it actually seems to vibrate the vehicle. So let's actually so that's like the fan noise. Let's turn that down. There, can you hear it? Maybe if I put the camera against the steering wheel, you'll hear it. Like a low frequency vibration or hum. So I guess the best way to find out whether that is the problem in yours is to literally just turn the blower off, and if it goes silent, that's what it is. Yeah, that definitely was the noise. So again, turn it back on, speed it up. And when I turn it off, you really hear the noise coming from down in this footwell here. There we go. So a little bit of online research takes you straight to the suggestion that it is the aircon blower. And what we need to do is get to the aircon blower and take it out. Now I'm actually pressing the mouse with my leg now. Once we've got to the blower, which is actually located under here, I'm going to check the part numbers, and I'm going to cross-reference it with both the Lexus and the Toyota part number, because I've been looking at these fans online and they're £599 from Lexus. I'm pretty sure I can get a Gen 3 Prius one for about 70 or 80 quid from Toyota. So let's pull that off, see if we can get to the blower, remove it. Now before you do that, definitely make sure the car is switched off, because we definitely don't want to be throwing error codes by turning the car on without the fan in. I'm not 100% sure whether it would or not, but I suspect it would, and at the moment I don't have any method of resetting them. So I'm just going to pull this off. I think there is a kind of some tabs here. Yeah, you push the tabs in and you should just be able to kind of like pull this panel down. There we go. And this one, there we go, no problem at all. Be careful because there are two wires connected here. I think one's the kind of footwell light and the other one's a temperature sensor. I'm not entirely certain. As we look up under here, I'm pretty sure this unit back here is the AC blower unit. So what we'll actually want to do is get that out. There appears to be some screws, and then we will undo these wiring connectors here as well. Hopefully we can pull that out fairly easily. Let's get to it. Not my favourite place, working with my head down in the footwell, but let's get to this. We undo this connection here, and hopefully the wiring will just slide out from there. It's a bit tight, wiggle, it's out, no problem. Now, I've seen a couple of different videos where there's this kind of connector in the way here, this white one, and what they tend to do is just bend it down and out the way. But actually you stick your finger around the back, there's a little bit of black tape back here somewhere, and it feels like there's a screw in that back corner. So I'm actually going to try and get in there with a screwdriver and see if we can actually undo this bracket. It might help if we actually remove this panel, but I'm going to see if I can do it without removing it. So, no, it's not easy to get to that one because it's such a small profile here that to actually get a flat blade in there, you're going to need a very low profile flat blade. So maybe I will just do this. Yeah, it's pretty easy to just bend this down and out of the way. So just bend that down a bit. Seems to be fine. And then what we need to do is undo these 3 retaining bolts. So there's one at the back, there's one here, and there's one back there. They actually look like a hex. That's not going to be easy to get to that one because it's behind that metal plate. We're going to need a spanner. So these bolts are an 8mm head, and we should just be able to get like a socket driver on there and undo them. One. Now we're looking towards the back of the blower. We need to pull this one out as well. It's a bit tight up there. Sure, it's much easier not holding a camera. Okay, and the final one, we'll get a spanner on that one. And get that one going. Okay, so we've got the lead out, we've got the 3 bolts out. We're going to snag on this bracket, but we're going to try and pull it down and wriggle it out. So pull, twist, bend that down, keep going, go gentle with it, be good not to break it. I'm going to bend that right down, and it's fallen out into my face. Fantastic, job done. Okay, there we go. I got whacked in the face by it, but there it is. Actually got a fair bit of weight to it, looking like a plastic unit. Well, probably the magnets and the coils. What I'm going to do is take this indoors now and actually do some bench tests on it, just to see if I can figure out why it's failed and why it makes such a racket. Let's do that then. Okay, here we are at the test bench. Forgive the mess. What can we say about this fan then? Well, it's a Denso. The number is moulded on there 272600, and then it's stamped with a 0456, so it looks like the plastic shell is this number and the gubbins inside is probably this number. It says 12 volts, 2N or 12V2N10, made in Japan. That's the important bit. It should mean it's good. So I wonder where the bearing's made, because I think that's what's failed. A little black sticker there. Let's have a look under that sticker. That is, yeah, the other end of the shaft, so maybe somewhere to put some grease in there and then cover it over. What else can we say? There's some other prints down here, but I'd say that's more to do with the moulding. It's 3-pin, it's stamped with a positive and a negative pin, and then there's also a 3rd pin in the middle. Now I wonder whether that takes a logic level or an analog level, or whether it's PWM, pulse width modulation, or whether it's actually like a CAN bus or ODB signal that goes to this fan. We'll find out when we take this cover off and have a look and see and decipher what's going on inside. As a general note, why is this fan grumbling? Well, it seems pretty well balanced. It seems to rotate all right. But there's a lot of lateral play in this shaft here, and you can hear that. I'm sure that's probably what's making the grumbling noise. I don't think it should be moving that much. There is some rust on the top of this shaft. It could even be that there's some little metal clips in here that are used for balancing the fan. Maybe one of those has come off at some point. But otherwise it rotates nicely. Let's go ahead and take this back cover off anyway. Obviously at £599 for a fan, it'd be well worth seeing if we could repair this. If not, perhaps we can get some replacement parts or possibly find an alternative fan that's compatible, but I'm not sure about that. I have read about people putting Lexus IS fans in here, and what actually happens is you blow a fuse because they're wired slightly differently. The other interesting thing about this fan is this little port down here. I'm not really sure what that port's for. It almost looks like it takes a tap off and blows some cool air down across the PCB, the electronic circuit board in there for cooling. Not entirely sure. Let's have a gander in here. I'm going to come off. There we go. Nice. So yeah, we can see. Yeah, so it looks like this port down here takes some air or exhausts some air that's used for cooling the electronic coils in there. So there's actually a little cooling port and it blows air in. Here's our PCB. It has got 3 connectors on it and it's held down. Let's actually unscrew it and see if it will come out in one go. It looks like it's just connected on with some spade connectors. So one screw there, give it a wiggle and it's come up. There's a little bit of silicone glue there. Now what's this? This is a heat sink. Interesting little board. Back in my days, to run a fan, you just push 12 volts up to it and it ran. Not nowadays. It looks like this is a brushless motor with 3 ports. It is, and this looks like an electronic driver or a ESC for driving the fan. Considering it's just a blower, it's a pretty hefty set of coils in there. I don't know if you can see through there, but there's some hefty windings. The circuit board is obviously fine, so let's hope we don't damage that now. And I do wonder where that 3rd pin goes, so I might just investigate that, see where that 3rd pin goes. 3rd pin comes down to a resistor and some capacitors. It goes down here through another set of resistors over to here to a transistor. It looks like there's some Hall effect sensors there, so I can keep a track on the rotation of the motor. It looks like it might take a digital pulse train like an RC aeroplane motor does, and depending on that pulse train it will actually speed or decrease the motor speed. Interesting. I wonder if I can make this thing go around. Right, I'm sure that lateral play is right there. So why is it making that play? Could it be that this ring here has slipped up the shaft and made it a bit loose? I'm actually going to take the mounting plate out. This actually holds the motor by the looks of it. So we'll take that out and have a look at what's going on under there. See if we can get rid of that rattle. Well, they're quite well done up, those ones. They don't want them rattling out. This screws out. Let's see if that pops off. It does. And then what have we got? There we go. So that's just a plate, some rubbers there. So it literally looks like this part here has worked itself loose. So what happens if we just compress it down? Let's see if we can just compress it down and whether that tightens it up. I'm just going to take a flat blade screwdriver and push down firmly on that, not too hard but firmly. Yeah, look, that's almost taken all that play out of it. It's almost got no play in it at all now. So what we really want is something round that we can get on there and knock that down a bit and actually put a little bit of pressure on there to clamp it all back together. Let's see if that works. Done is found a socket that will hopefully knock the metal down without knocking there. So I'm actually going to rest it on the edge of that. Just going to give this a gentle tap on that side. Just drive it down. And let's see how that feels. Oh, that's too much. I've put too much on there. It's all right actually. We need to just ease that up a little bit, see if we can get a bit of a better run on it. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, it rotates quite freely now. It's got no play left in it, no movement. Now what I was actually going to do is, if you think that's probably rattled up over the years, is maybe pop a little bit of locking compound on there. So I'm going to clean it all up, make sure it's grease free. Nice thorough clean up there. And then what I'm going to do is stick a little bit of super glue down, but not as much as it flows past that and ends up going into the bearing. We literally just want a few dabs around the edge that will be enough to just stop it sliding up. So there's one, a little bit right there. That'll be enough. If you end up putting a lot of glue on there, it's going to run down the shaft into the bearing, glue it all up. So don't do that. What I'll do now is just wait a few minutes for that glue to settle, and then I'm actually going to apply a bit of oil to the bearing as well. Well, that's looking quite good now, the glue's set. I guess if you had a new one of those kind of compression rings, it might be worth trying to fish that one off and put a new one on. Seems like it's a little loose. I gave this a wiggle and it does loosen up. So I imagine it's going to happen again, but if this solves the problem, next time it happens, we know exactly what to tackle. It's going to be the kind of captive ring on the end of that motor shaft. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that's all good to go back together now. That's what I was going to use. I was going to put some lithium based grease in here to make sure that the bearing is nicely oiled. Couldn't find any, so I'm actually going to go with this Somerset Cars Toyota Super Lube. It's a PTFE lube. That should be all right. And what we need to try and do is get it down around that bearing. So just get a bit in there and let it dribble in. And just wipe the excess off the top there. And actually this PTFE oil is quite good at keeping all these rubbers soft. So I might actually just spray a little bit on them as well and rub it in. It's got quite good conditioning action for rejuvenating rubbers. So let's squirt a bit of that into those as well. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. And then what we need to do is mount all this back together. Yeah, I kind of forgotten how it goes back together now. So I believe that one went on first. Then we need to take this metal bracket and lay that back on top. Okay, they're done up nice and tight. I think I mentioned trying to power this up on the bench, but as I think this might fix it, I'm not going to try and power it up now in case we end up popping it. Before we put that circuit board back on, we just want to make sure these electrical contacts are clean and relatively free of grease. And we've got that rubber seal in there. That rubber seal looks pretty well intact to me, so I'm not going to put any new rubber in there. It's still soft and pliable, so it's kind of one of these non-drying sealers that you might use on a roof or something. Right, let's slot that back into place. I believe I went this way with the heatsink sealing into that block there. Quite clever the way it siphons off air to cool the circuitry. And then we just want to make sure those connectors slide back on and we don't bend them up. So to me, pop them down like that, put that heatsink firmly into its seat, pop it in, and then there was one screw there, I believe. Yeah, it still feels tight. We've taken that play out. There's a little play, but not much. What's the next bit? Well, I've only got 4 screws left, and those 4 screws definitely hold that plastic cover on. To me, it almost looks like there should have been another screw in here, but it's missing. So has someone been in here already? Doubt it, but they might have been. Let's pop that case back on. Well, there we go. One Denso Dens did. Nice. Don't know whether that's going to fix the problem at all. I'm just guessing. Haven't tested it yet. but there's one way to find out. Let's go and reinstall it and see how it does. No knocking or bumping now, and it rotates freely. Brilliant. There we are again. Let's offer it back up into position. The side with this kind of vented port needs to go towards the centre console on this right hand drive vehicle. I don't know what it is on a left hand, it'll be probably the other way round, and then hopefully we can offer that up around that bracket, and there we go, we're in position. Fantastic. Then all we need to do is rescue some screws and get those back in. That's one, and you can actually use a flat blade screwdriver on these if you want. And then we need to get to this one at the back and put that one back in. And then this one on the far side under this connector. A spanner on that one. You want to make sure these are done up fairly tight because you don't want the motor wriggling around on these mounting plates, otherwise that's just going to cause a rumble again. Let's see how well we can get that done up. Yeah, that one's nice and tight. And then this one at the back. If you're wondering how you get down here to work, I'm literally like lay on me back on the seat with my head down in the footwell. Very uncomfortable. If you've got a bad back, I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, that's all three of those done up. Then we need to find that connector, plug that back in, and bend this one back up into place as much as you can without breaking anything. Yeah, I think that's about it really. That one needs bending up a bit more, but what I'm going to do is just test it out and see if we've got rid of that rumble. Okay, the engine's now on. Let's actually start this fan up and see how it sounds. There we go, it sounds better. We'll turn it off. No grumble, completely gone. Start that up and I'll put the camera back in the footwell so we can do a little comparison of before and after. There we go, success, problem solved. And it was solved for 0 pence, unless you want to charge up for a squirt of super glue, a knock with a hammer, and about, well, half an hour's labour. Nice work.